No, I must first thank you all for inviting me and also giving me some copies of the magazine of the Royal Asiatic Society. My mother's collections of the originals, which were given to me, with a large number of history books, all went off with the Aragalaya. So I can understand your fear of having Aragalaya next to you. Now, the Royal Asiatic Society, both here and your counterpart in Calcutta, has done a valuable service in recording the history of this subcontinent. On our part, I think it was people like Chief Justice Alexander Johnston and George Turner. On their side, many of the Englishmen in Calcutta, of whom the most famous, I think, is Prinsep, who did the work here, which enabled the discovery not only of our history, but through Mahavansa, the history of India. But India hasn't got the recorded history that we have. Though our history, Mahavansa, is an interpretation and a practice which has been followed up to the present day when different political commentators interpret history in the way that they want. Nevertheless, history as a tradition has to be continued, and we have to acknowledge the work that has been done here in the Royal Asiatic Society. I've read some of the original magazines, which had some of the leading people of Sri Lanka contributing. People like James D. Alvis and others who have been writing articles. Many of the outstanding burgher gentlemen, people like Ramanathan, I see Arunachalam's photograph here, a large number. And those are really valuable works. So, what we are planning to do and what I am planning to do is to first start the Institute of History. We had discussed it earlier before I went out of office. We've revised it. We are getting a final draft ready, which we will discuss with the universities, the archaeology, and with the Royal Asiatic Society. And it is through this institution that we will start funding and government assistance to the programs on history. Firstly, is also to look at and save the libraries. Well, you have the RAS library here. The museum has a collection. There's another collection in the archives. Then the public library, also the University of Peradeniya. I think my grandfather gave the Ferguson collection. There was some other, the Obesekar gave some collections which are there. So with that, then there are a lot of articles here which has to be collected. Then the number of the universities carry the number of theses which have been unpublished. Then from places like the University of Leiden and others, there are a large number of articles which have been there, the theses. So we've got to make a collection of all those. And then there will be the other history programs. So what I will from that, we've thought of funding projects. So whether it's the university or RAS or any, that then you'll have to decide what gets priority, what are the projects to go on. So we have also got to resolve one issue as to what the Postgraduate Institute of Archaeology is going to do and what the funding, that's been one of the issues that we have to resolve. But hopefully we've given a draft to the legal, I've given a draft to the legal draftman, so the final copy should come, after which we will discuss with all the legal one and set up an ad hoc committee which can then look at how it starts and how it's going to function and how we are going to have members. That I hope will give a impetus to the history, study of history in this country, where a lot of people have now, many of them don't study history, and you have different versions of history, and more, worse than that, the archaeology seems to have gone on a trip of its own. So we have to slowly get them back into some to do the work with the side on history. But there is a lot more to be done. So you have your issues. One is air conditioning to preserve the library. So we will give you the money. Let me know what is required. Then for next year, you can go ahead with the conferences which were put off due to COVID and make the arrangements, see in which way we can help. But certainly As far as the library is concerned, the money will be made available for the preservation of the books. Thereafter, how funding go on will have depend on how we going to work it out with the Institute of History, which should not be an institute competing with you all or anyone else, but an institute which brings together the RAS together with the museums, the archives, the archaeology, and the cultural triangle, and the universities. So we bring them all together, and that will be a focal point from which I think the interaction between the institutions will only further enrich this process.